Good afternoon. It is Friday, September 1st, 2023. I've learned that one of the simplest to understand, yet hardest to actually live by tenets of Christianity is the idea or the belief that God will always provide. We constantly worry about our perceived lack of resources for daily living. We're always afraid we're not going to have enough. In fact, it's almost a theme in some churches. We don't have enough money. One of the best ways for a believer to put things in perspective is to go on a mission trip to an area of real poverty and spend some time in worship with believers that function with tremendous joy with much less resources than the average American. Years ago, we were in a small rural village in northern Thailand, and we're meeting with a new church that was meeting in the village center. Everyone, other than the Americans, walked to the town center for worship, some of them coming from a couple of miles away, to meet in an open-air, un-air-conditioned meeting place. Yet their joy was evident, and their appreciation for God's blessings was humbling. Jesus spent a lot of time teaching and telling his disciples and his followers that he would provide. And they struggled with that idea, much like we do. In the passage of scripture we're looking at today, it's setting the stage for one of his greatest miracles, the feeding of the 5,000. And I want you to look at the dialogue he has with the disciples leading up to that event. In Mark chapter 6, verses 35 to 38, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation, second edition. It says, late in the afternoon, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so that they can go to the nearby farms and villages and buy something to eat." But Jesus said, "You feed them." "With what?" they asked. "We'd have to work for months to earn enough money to buy food for all these people." "Well, how much bread do you have?" he asked. "Go and find out." They came back and reported, "We have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." And their loaves were not the kind of loaves we're thinking about. They're more like dinner rolls. And the fish they're talking about would have been closer to sardine-sized than trout-sized. Basically, they had a boy's lunch. Jesus told them, "You feed them." They said, "Send these folks away. Let them go somewhere else to get their food." And Jesus put the responsibility squarely back on the disciples. "You feed them." And they immediately said, "We don't have the money. We don't have what it takes. We don't have the resources. We're going to go hungry ourselves. We don't even have to feed ourselves, much less this whole unorganized mob. How are we going to do that?" And that's such a common theme of Christians. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. And he asked them a very interesting question. He said, "What do you have?" And you notice they didn't know. So often when we're complaining about not having enough, we don't know what we do have. And Jesus' question is a little more startling than we want to let it become. What do you have? Because there's a corollary to that question. Is it available for ministry? What do you have, and are you willing to share? And that comes right down to the heart of where our heart is in having enough resources. What do we have, and are we willing to share? Do we tell about our lack, or do we trust that God will provide? So simple to understand. God will provide. But so hard to live by. Trust that he will provide. May this week be a week of trusting for God's provision in your life. God bless you.